Welcome to episode 12 of the Wake and Wander podcast. No guest today, just me and you, going to be poking around the internet, checking out some travel news, see what's going on in the industry. Let's start here with Southwest Airlines. Now, they've had a wild couple years. I mean, wild. And they are back in the news, and it's not good. There are big changes coming to Southwest's operation plan and to many of its long-standing industry differentiating policies, including the free checked bag policy and the open seating policy. So we'll go through all this, but let's back up a little bit to just understand the run Southwest Airlines has been on here. Let's flash back a little bit to the start of December 2022 when it had its epic holiday travel meltdown. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was a combination of nationwide storms and weather, but also a tech issue on their side that just caused a complete meltdown. They canceled close to 17,000 flights and stranded more than 2 million travelers. This was over the Christmas holiday, and it resulted in $140 million in fines from the government. Of course, you can look back in any airline's history and find troubling incidences. This one was just so powerful and so visible and affected so many people that I think it's fair to say it marked a really changing point for Southwest Airlines in terms of how people viewed them and in terms of their own self-reflection. A lot of great headlines during this time. It was 2 years after the pandemic. CNN article points out that Southwest Airlines received $7 billion in taxpayer funding as a pandemic bailout. $7 billion. And then 2 years later, not even 2 years later, they have this epic meltdown. A lot of these articles point out that Southwest may or may not have been able to use that government funding to fix this specific technical issue that hurt them in 2022. However, it just wasn't a good look. The American people, we know how much money they're getting. We know how these companies tend to use this money. I think a lot of us have PTSD from a lot of the Wall Street bailouts, late 2000s. So it wasn't a good look for Southwest Airlines. Nobody was particularly impressed, let's say. There's a lot of stuff you can go back and read, guys, if you're interested. The history of Southwest Airlines is quite fascinating. I don't know if a lot of you know this. The airline started in the 1960s. It was only a Texas-based airline. At that time, it had a triangle route it would perform. It went between Dallas, where it was headquartered, San Antonio, and Houston. That was it. So pretty humble beginnings. And then it expanded to the airline we come to know today. But why does Southwest stick out to us? It was one of the first major budget airlines a lot of us being our generation, saw and partook in and enjoyed. But it also had some really key differentiators that separated it from other airlines. Most of those now are going to go away because the airline is in deep financial trouble. I don't know if we can directly point to 2022 as the cause of everything we're seeing now. I think that was a symptom of something that had been brewing back. There's a great YouTube video. It's about 30 minutes. Thank you to John Holman from episode 4. Not only has a great knowledge of Antarctica, but also has been following the Southwest Airlines. After my last episode and teasing this, he sent me this video. It's a fascinating story. Talks a lot about private equity and how different investments in the airlines may have impacted, or as some may say, corrupted the business model of Southwest Airlines to bring us to where we are today. So I could point you to that, the rise and fall of Southwest Airlines on YouTube. Don't want to spend a ton of time digging into all that nitty-gritty right now. The big picture is that there have been some symptoms and some problems moving through the airline that are manifesting today. In 2024, in the first quarter, Southwest Airlines reported a net loss of $231 million, despite showing a record revenue of $6.3 billion. So they brought in $6.3 billion in the first quarter of 2024, but lost $231 million on that revenue. Troubles continued into 2025. In early 2025, Southwest Airlines was hit with another federal lawsuit for allegedly, quote, operating chronically delayed flights. So always running behind, chronically delayed flights. Interesting note in that report, Southwest Airlines, in the last 5 years, its stock price has shrunk by almost 48%. 48%. That rolled into earlier this year as well, Southwest announcing it was making a historical cut to its workforce to create a, quote, leaner and more agile organization. The airline announced it will be laying off 15% of its corporate workforce. I don't think it's out of line to say that everything is just moving in the wrong direction here. So what does Southwest do? In the midst of all this, it decides it wants to make some big changes. And the big changes it decides to make are to some of its key industry differentiators. This is why a lot of people are very confused about what's happening at Southwest. They're struggling, but they do have a very strong grasp on a particular market due to the unique way they operate flights. But now they're going to get rid of all this. So here it is. Here's what they're getting rid of. Last year, amongst all this, they broke the news that the open seating policy on Southwest Airlines would end. I'm sure many of you have flown Southwest. If you haven't, here's the quick idea, the overview. On most flights you fly, American, United, Delta, any other airline in the world, you buy your ticket and you either select your seat when you buy it or before boarding at some point you are assigned a seat. That is your seat. No one's sitting there. It's reserved for you. Southwest is completely different. You are never assigned a seat on Southwest Airlines, historically. You buy your ticket. It does not come with a seat assignment. You board the flight and you pick your own seat. It's an open seating policy. There are no assigned seats. The entire plane was this way. All the seats were the same, and it's first come, first serve as you board. For those wondering who boards first, there was a small loyalty group for Southwest Airlines, which would get priority boarding. Everybody else would board on the basis of when they checked in for the flight. So this was a little bit of a game, and this is something I could see people being okay with this going away. Because for me as a frequent flyer, I don't want to have to jump on my computer or my phone exactly 24 hours before the flight takes off so I can be one of the first people to check in so I can get a good boarding spot where then I can then pick a seat, hopefully in the front of the plane. That probably doesn't work for a lot of frequent flyers. That's why you've really never seen that business go to Southwest Airlines. People who fly a lot want to just have their seat reserved. They want to be able to pick it. They want to know it. Southwest was a whole different ball game. But it was fun to some degree. I remember my good friend Tom, he had a little bit of a career as a stand-up comedian, and he had a great joke about this, saying how you sit down in your seat in Southwest Airlines, and your whole job from their point out is to look as disgusting as possible so that no one will want to come and sit next to you, right? Keep that middle seat open. You know, people come down the aisle, you just want to look sick and disgusting and sneezing, and you want people to say, I don't want to sit next to that guy. Right? So this is the game it was. So now they announced last year, and they continue to announce this as they work out how it's going to unveil, that the open seating policy is done. So starting in 2026, we don't know exactly when. We don't know exactly when those booking windows will open, but starting sometime in 2026, you will get assigned seats on Southwest Airlines. That's the first differentiator that's going away. The reason they're doing that is because they want to make more money, or they think they're going to make more money, on ancillary charges. Premium seats, such as first class, premium economy, the ability just to pay to select your seat. Southwest wants to get in on the game. They say now they're going to have a first class. They say now they're going to have some type of premium seats. We don't know what yet. You'll be able to select your seat, And many people will be paying to select their seat, and many people will be paying for the premium seats. None of that existed for Southwest Airlines before. They're hoping to capture ancillary money, extra money, but also attract new kinds of travelers. As I was saying, for someone like myself who travels a lot, having an assigned seat is important. Having the option to sit in a premium seat is also important. It's not because we're bougie. You guys that know me, I'm not bougie. But for me, it is so important to have access to a premium seat, especially as a frequent flyer. Southwest, this could be a move for them where they attract now a different kind of traveler. Someone who flies more frequently for business, for whatever, but they want that extra leg room. They want that option, and they want to be rewarded if they're going to fly you a lot. What is the benefit of flying Southwest Airlines over and over and over again? There are some. They have a loyalty program. You get early boarding. They don't have the premium seats and the ability to upgrade and those creature comforts that other airlines have. And it's important to a frequent flyer. It's one thing to sit uncomfortable on a flight once or twice a year. When you're flying 2 to 3 to 4 times a month, you want something a little more. It's just the way it is. That's the first thing they're going to change. The second thing is the free checked bag policy. Previously, as every other airline in the world had changed to charge for checked bags, Southwest Airlines remained and maintained its status as the only airline in America to offer free checked bags. Not 1, 2 free checked bags per person. Huge savings for families. It can be hundreds of dollars. You can check bags for free on international flights, but domestically forever. I mean, it's how it is. Everyone just expects to pay to check a bag. And Southwest stood out for having free check bags. So that's gone. Gone. Southwest Airline, as of May 28th. So as we sit right here, right now, any Southwest ticket you book going forward, no more free check bag. Even people that didn't know anything about airlines could probably have told you that Southwest was different, and the main reason they were different is because they allowed a free check bag. It's a huge distinguishing factor about them. Gone. They're done with it. They're moving on. Now, first bag on Southwest Airlines, going to cost you $35. So that's our new reality. An interesting report just came out about this. Southwest projected that it would make $1.5 billion in annual bag fee revenue by implementing this change, by charging for bags. However, industry experts have done their own research and found that the change would lead to about $1.8 billion in loss of market share. In other words, they would make $1.5 billion off the new bag fees, but they would lose $1.8 billion in customers, let's say, in customer revenue. They estimate that that's the amount of people that fly Southwest Airlines only because of the free check bags. And that now that that's gone, those people flying Southwest Airlines, just because of that bag policy, will now probably shop around. They might go to American or United or Delta because, what's the difference now? That's so crazy. You have a business where you had strong reasons why people were flying you, and you just eliminated them. You literally just brought yourself right back to the pack and said, now we're like everyone else. Now, it remains to be seen how this plays out in the long run, right? As the media now, we love to react. We love to project. Projections, you'll see in our next story. It's a big thing for the media. Let's speculate. Let's pretend we know what's going to happen. Of course, using the best data we have available. But we'll see how it shakes out. Will that many people leave Southwest Airlines? Maybe. I don't know. It depends. Depends on where they live, what other options they have, why they're flying, the circumstances of their travels. But the point is that there's a lot of confusion around what Southwest Airlines is doing. A lot of what they're doing seems self-inflicted, seems like they're bringing themselves back to the pack. And yes, they may make more money on these ancillary charges, but will they be able to maintain their customer base? Will they be able to draw new customers in? Forever, the marketing material around Southwest Airlines was based around these differentiators. No premium seats, no assigned seats, and no check bag fee. All three of them, once we get to next year, will be completely gone. Big time fun with Southwest Airlines. Now, the one thing I want to point out, they do have one more differentiating factor that has not gone away, and I have not heard will go away. And I really hope they keep it. In fact, not only do I hope they keep it, I hope that other airlines adopt it. I don't know why other airlines haven't already. Southwest has been doing this a long time. Nobody else seems to catch on. I'm not sure why. Airports could benefit from adopting this differentiator, and that is Southwest Airlines boarding method. Okay, forget about inside the plane with the assigned seats. Think about outside the plane, the boarding method. Everyone here listening has probably taken a flight. Think about United, Delta, American, Frontier. The boarding policies are group numbers, first class, groups 1 through 8 or 9. Think about how everybody just huddles around the boarding area, waiting for the number to be called. And once, let's say you're in group 2 is called, and you and I are both in group 2. Who's going to board first, you or me? Whoever gets there first, right? They call group 2. Everybody from group 2 race up there. That overhead space is waiting, so the sooner I get up there, the better. And this leads to complete chaos in the boarding area. This is why you have people from group 7 standing right in front of the boarding gate when they're on group 2, because people are nervous about getting on and getting the overhead space, and they want to be up there and ready. Now, I'll give some people the benefit of the doubt. A lot of people who don't fly a lot may not realize what they're doing or the disruptions they're causing. And I will also give the benefit of the doubt that airports today are very chaotic, and there's not a lot of places to stand. There's not a lot of places to wait. And the process of the boarding they do does cause anxiety. Why would you want to sit 200 feet away in a chair quietly and listen for your boarding group to call and then make your way up there when you know they're going to call group 2 and then everyone's going to, you got to get up there. There is a little bit of that motivation. So I'm not trying to be too hard on people. I get why it happens, which is why I'm saying what Southwest does is way better. What Southwest does is that they assign not only boarding groups, but then they assign your position within that boarding group. So, for example, Southwest Airlines traditionally has had groups A, B, and C. And then within those groups are numbers, A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, etc. As long as it needs to go. Sometimes each group will have 30, 40, 50 passengers. But here's why it's awesome. One, when they call Group A, everybody lines up according to their number. And they have signposts at the gates. Next time you walk past the Southwest Airlines gate, notice they have these tall columns with the boarding groups, A, B, or C, and then the numbers. And everybody lines up, A1, A2, A3, all the way to A30 or whatever it is. And that's how you board the plane, in that order. That's pretty neat. It totally declutters the boarding process. It gives everyone a mission and a purpose about where to stand and when to stand there. There's no need to rush when they call your boarding group. You know exactly who you're going to board before and after. And it just makes everybody nice. It's just everybody has to line up where they're assigned. It's a brilliant idea, and it's something that I really hope that other airlines take a look at, and mostly I hope that Southwest Airlines keeps that one thing, because in my mind, as a frequent flyer, that's probably the most useful policy they have. It's probably the most groundbreaking policy they have. I don't understand why more airlines don't do it. It would completely change the vibe at the boarding gates and at the airport for other airlines. But I digress. Let's move on. The New York Times is reporting that the U.S. summer tourism season is going to be down from last year. It's going to be called a summer travel slump. And the headline is, amid uncertainty, the U.S. brand, quote, has taken a beating. The article says that Donald Trump's tariffs and otherwise unpopular policy decisions are the reasons for the upcoming downturn. Okay, I mean, yeah, all right. I get it. That's the narrative in the news. I guess we'll see. I find these stories sometimes to be unhelpful. I don't know. A tourism forecasting, I get it. You're going to do it, and the numbers are what they are. I definitely understand there are people who are unhappy with the United States right now. Let's say it that way. Talking to Tim Wenger in a previous episode, we got into a debate about the Canadians initially boycotting America when that all went down earlier this year. I also have colleagues in the travel industry that are European, for example, and I sense it from them, may or may not be wanting to visit the U.S. during this time. And you know what? That's their prerogative. If that's how they feel, then okay. Here's just my thoughts on that. As a traveler, I have never been dissuaded from visiting a part of the world because of the current political situation. Never. The reason is not because I agree with everything that goes on in the world and that I agree with all the things that go on in the places I visit. It's because once I make a distinction, I'm stuck to it forever. I'm bound to that going forward. There's a great Chinese proverb that says, "The great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. Make the smallest distinction, however, and heaven and earth are set infinitely apart." First, I love that for life and our day-to-day way of seeing the world, but it's what I think of when I travel as well. If you are going to say that you're not going to travel somewhere because of a political reason, you are now bound by that everywhere you go. And this is where, as humans, we are able to play our mental gymnastics, and you might say, I'm not going to visit the U.S. because of Trump. I'm going to go to China instead. I'm going to go to a country in Western Africa instead. I'm going to go to Cambodia. The funny thing is once you start to say, I'm not going to go here because of X, now you start having to look at all those other places and say, well, you become a hypocrite pretty quick if you're saying, I'm not going to go to the U.S. because I don't like the politics, but I can't wait to go to Shanghai next fall. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Every country has political times that you're going to disagree with. A lot of these countries have human rights records. A lot of these countries have poor relationships with alternative lifestyles. A lot of countries have rules and laws that hold back women. a lot of these countries have done disgusting things in the past. We all have. We're human beings. Look at history. So I just caution people on this. Hey, I'm not telling you what to do. You don't want to travel to the U.S. because you don't like Trump. Whatever. Good for you. Fine. Go somewhere else. That's great. America is an amazing country to travel to. You can see some of the best outdoors in the world, and some of the diversity of people here is unlike anything else you will ever see. If you don't want to come, that's fine. I just caution you against getting into this mental trap where you're going to start putting off certain places because of reasons. And if you're going to do that, I just ask you to be consistent. So if you tell me as a traveler, you're not going to come here because of politics, all right, I'm just going to question you as a traveler going forward. Be like, oh, you traveled to Mexico City? You went to Cancun? You went to Puerto Vallarta? Oh, wow. Did you know that in 2024, close to 60 politicians were assassinated during the election cycle? You got to be careful if you start saying in public, I'm not going to go here because of XYZ, because then if you do go somewhere, I'm going to assume you're on board with everything. I'm going to assume that you've looked over everything in that country and you've decided, I'm going to do it. So you've been warned on that. And now let's move on to the most important part, and we'll end optimistically here because, again, it's fine to forecast tourism numbers, but I just have a little bit of a problem with the lack of context on this. First off, there's probably way more people traveling to the U.S. who don't have a problem or are just not really concerned, let's put it that way, about the political situation than the people that are saying, I'm not going to go because of it. So the framing makes it seem like everyone in the world, no one's coming to the U.S. Just a worldwide boycott. That's insane. There are a lot of people who are going to come to the U.S. this year who are not put off by the political situation, or at least aren't as concerned about it. In 2024, 35 million people visited the U.S. 35 million international arrivals. That number is projected to reach 96 million per year by 2028. This is the context we're missing. How many people are going to bypass the U.S. because of politics? That remains to be seen. We'll see. But 35 million people came here last year, and I think a lot of people are going to come here this year and in the coming years as well, regardless of who's in charge politically. Most people in the world are not just sitting around thinking of the United States. Yes, we are a major player on the international stage. Our actions as a country affect other countries and the world. Yes. That said, most people are not sitting around all day thinking about the United States. They're just not. They're just not. And I can tell you this because I travel a lot. My experience on the road as an American in this Donald Trump administration, in the previous Donald Trump administration, and even in Joe Biden's administration, I don't find that everybody wants to talk politics. I don't find that every single person, very far from it, actually. Far from it. Most people are living their lives. They're not dwelling on the U.S. They're trying to put food on their own table in their own country. And the same goes for people that travel to the U.S. When I meet someone from France in the United States, I'm not like, hey, man, so nice to meet you. Tell me about last December when your prime minister was ousted in a vote of no confidence and the French government basically collapsed. Like, what's up with that? I'm not going to say that. Now, maybe once I get to know them and if we spend some time together and travel together a bit, I may ask them for their perspective, but I'm not going to sit there and judge them based on et cetera. So I just think this narrative of this constant judging is just not very good. And in reality, the whole point of travel is to connect cultures across one another. It is not for cultures to clash into each other. It is to connect the cultures. So headlines like this, stories like this, without the context, it just really bothers me. It's not helpful. And my fear is that it does a little bit of reverse harm. So, okay, you're telling me that people don't want to come here because they don't like us anymore. And therefore, well, should I really go to the UK this summer? Is everyone just going to hate me? Now I'm kind of worried as an American traveling outside my country. If people don't want to come here, am I welcome there? And that would be a big mistake. That would be a big mistake for Americans to stop traveling right now. In fact, it's ever more important that Americans travel now during this time of political quote unquote controversy. This is an idea that I think a lot of people have, but I just recently saw that Rick Steves talked about this. When we travel now, we're ambassadors for our country. So if it is true that people overseas have a negative opinion of America, then it's even more important that we travel and get out there. Because I want them to meet you. And I want them to associate America with you and how you conduct yourself and who you are as a traveler. And through your curiosity and your interest and your compassion, let's show them. Let's be those people on the road. We're going to let our politicians on TV dictate who we are? We're going to let our actors and celebrities dictate who we are? The perception of what America is? No, we're America. When we're traveling, we represent our country. We're ambassadors. It's even more important to travel now, guys. It really is. So don't let these kind of stories deter you, please. All right, finishing up with some recent travels I had. I just went to Belize for the first time, and I wanted to share some of my takeaways from it. I was only there 4 days. In actuality, 2 days. I flew there on a Monday, arrived in the late afternoon, and I flew out on Thursday morning. 4-day trip, really only 2 days, maybe 3 in the destination. I was there for a very specific assignment, but I accepted it even though it was a short duration, just because I had never been and I thought it'd be a cool way to get an overview of the country. And there's a couple things I picked up on that I just wanted to pass on to you guys. Number one, first surprising thing about Belize, it's in Central America. You go there and you expect, like most of the other countries, to get more of a Latin, Spanish vibe in the language, in the way they live, in the way they carry themselves. But that's not the case in Belize. Not at all, actually. Spanish is spoken, but more as a secondary language. Guess what the first language is in Belize? English. English is the first language. And why is that? Well, Belize speaks English primarily because it was a British colony from the 1600s until it gained its independence in 1981, quite recently. And when it gained its independence, English became the official language that's now used in public education, government, and media, etc. Spanish and Creole are both spoken, but more in the background. And most people there sound like they're from the Caribbean. It's much more of a Caribbean vibe than it is a Latin American vibe, at least from the overview I got flying into Belize City and then going to the offshore islands. Some of the more popular ones would be Ambergris Cay and Cay Caulker. Cay Caulker being more of a backpacker type destination. Ambergris Cay being the largest island off the coast. All golf carts on the islands. That's the main way of people travel, in golf carts, which is neat. So the islands, I mean, relatively speaking, aren't big, but when you're traveling through golf carts, it can take a while to get places. But it's neat. You fly into Belize City, you either take a ferry, which is about an hour or so, or you can take a small plane, which is about a 5 to 10 minute flight, out to these islands where there's an array of accommodation, hotels, restaurants, and local people that live there, mostly supported by the tourism industry. Big thing to remember with Belize. It's not a beach destination, it's a water destination. Don't go to Belize because you want to sit on the beach and hang out and sunbathe. Of course, there are beaches, but as far as the world goes and the offering of beaches, it's not something that you would want to go there as a beach destination. However, as a water destination, it is very good. Did a lot of great snorkeling down there. Saw a lot of big animals, sharks, stingrays, very diverse marine life, and a lot of awesome keys and Ks to boat between, and just a lot of great waterside lounging. Beautiful views from different restaurants, very Caribbean-esque in that, where you have these little beach bars where you can sit and hang. Many of them have tables in the water where you can sit half submerged. So there's definitely an island tourism vibe that reminds me of the Caribbean on those islands off the coast of Belize City. Now, according to people I met, research I did, and other people I know that have been to Belize, the interior of the country is a lot different. That's where you're going to find your jungles and your more tropical setting. And personally speaking, I think I would enjoy that part of the country a little more. If and when I return to Belize, I think I will check out that area. But it was great to see all that island culture, and that's definitely what you can expect when you go to Belize in the areas around Belize City. One thing I will warn you guys about, and I had been warned, but I wasn't quite sure if it were true, but I can confirm the food in Belize. I don't think I had one good meal my whole time there. I'm not a picky eater. It just really wasn't that great. Now, I don't say that there wasn't any effort. A lot of the food looked really nice, and I could tell that people were trying. I think it was the blandness for me. You would look at this bowl of ceviche, for example, and the colors would pop, the fish would look very fresh. It was very enticing, but then it would just taste like nothing. Nothing was elevated with flavor. I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm just letting you guys know this is what I experienced. You guys will make your own decisions, but I would set your expectations a little bit lower when it comes to cuisine in Belize. The one thing I didn't get to do there that I really was interested in was visiting the Blue Hole. I'm sure everybody's heard of the Blue Hole. It's an iconic natural formation, very popular with snorkelers and scuba divers. I've heard various things about it from the Belize City area and the islands there. The boat ride to get out there is about 2 hours or more, depending on the conditions. So it's a long day trip to get out there. There were various reports about the quality of the snorkeling and the diving. To me, it seems neat because you can do a wall dive going down, and it's just such an iconic formation. Just to interact with it would be special, I think. A lot of people, what they do is instead of going by boat to snorkel or scuba dive, they'll actually go on a scenic flight over top of it, which I saw some videos of other guests that had done it, and it's beautiful being able to circle above it. It really is. Now, you don't get to go down and interact with it, but that's an option. Couple fun facts about the Blue Hole, if any of you guys are curious. The hole itself at the top is about 1,000 feet across, and it goes down to a depth of 400 feet, 407 feet, I believe. In 2018, Richard Branson, he went on an expedition to reach the bottom of it. And there's a great article about it in, I think it was the New York Post. I will put it in the show notes. But they were surprised at what they found. The Blue Hole has a lot of mysterious nature about it. So some people think this or that or aliens or whatever. So they went to the bottom of it, and unfortunately, it wasn't great what they found. They found a 2-liter bottle of Coke and other trash at the bottom. They found a GoPro that had been dropped, and they also found 2 human bodies that were thought to have died on a previous mission of trying to reach the bottom of it. Kind of sad. The article makes it a little doom and gloom. Apparently, about halfway down, there was some barrier where there was a great reduction in oxygen, so some sea life had fallen in, let's say, some conch shells and suffocated, the article says, and also how the marine life severely drops off once you pass this point. Now, most people going to dive are not going down this deep, so it's not necessarily something you have to worry about if you visit, but it's just an interesting article to say that they had reached the bottom and that they had found 3 things, and it happened to be trash, a GoPro, and human bodies. Not the best publicity for Belize there. I'm sure they weren't too stoked about that article. Another article I found is that we call the Blue Hole, this formation off the coast of Belize, we just call it the Blue Hole. You say the Blue Hole around the world, most people are going to think of Belize. They've done a good job of marketing it that way. There are other blue holes in the world, however, and some that are much deeper. One was recently found off the coast of Mexico, and whereas the Blue Hole in Belize is only a little over 400 feet deep, this one is almost 1,400 feet deep, more than triple the size. So quite cool. So I'll post that article as well if you're interested. The running theory on these holes is that they were formed sometime during the Ice Age, and they were caves that had collapsed. Your guess is as good as mine on that. So overall, a good first visit to Belize. If you're thinking about going, keep these things in mind. Number 1, it's more English-speaking Caribbean vibe than Latin vibe. Number 2, on the coast, it's more of a water destination than a beach destination. 3, if you're interested in exploring more of the forested or mountain region and seeing some of the ancient ruins that the country has to offer, you want to go to the interior, more of the southwest area of the country, rather than up by Belize City and on the coast. And finally, at least where I went along the coast, manage your expectations for cuisine. There doesn't seem to be a ton of that Mexican, Latin influence in the cuisine. Much more Caribbean, much more coastal. Stick to the fresh fish, maybe a jerk chicken. You'll be good to go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. You can keep in touch with everything I'm doing at Wake and Wander Will on Instagram. My email is will@wakeandwander.com. We will see you next time.
Now I'm riding the terrain, flying high up once again. Got my crew sitting healthy and my boo living wealthy. Level 99, never settle in my mind. So I pedal and I climb up the pedestal and find almighty weapon. So I calm, lightly step into the castle. Satchel, tackled, wrestled down the corridor where I'm grounded through the floor. Roundhouse into my core, down, out, and through the door. Sword down at my side, I gotta round up and ride. Face boss, break jaws till I take off. Face off, stop and swing my serious strike. This is it. Take the title, disappear in the night to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm hit the whole wide world. Slay the boss in the castle when we cross final battle. Then I walk out, travel to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm